Warning, spoilers ahead for the whole Terrifier series. Going into my 10:35 showing of Terrifier 3, I was wary. I had jumped partially down the Reddit spoiler rabbit hole. There I learned children get killed in the movie. Vicky sticks something up her... Poor man's taint gets mistaken for a fallen log. All these things being said, I walked away from this dark, comedic, and grisly movie with a single impression. This movie was inspirational. Now before you call the FBI, Homeland Security, your local Red Lobster, let me explain myself. Walking back to my car, having just witnessed one of the coolest clashes of a biblical angelic good versus a demonic depraved evil, I was reminded back to a principle of storytelling I discovered and resonated with me in my early childhood. How being subjected to utter hopeless darkness causes the light to shine all the more sweeter. The year was 2010. The video game Dante's Inferno just hit the markets. See the game's hero Dante, a murderous crusader, plunge into the depths of hell to save his wife Beatrice. Though not a really acclaimed game to any degree, this dark and disturbing journey filled with the endless suffering of the damned is something that has stuck with me. The long, disgusting journey ends with Dante facing off against the devil himself in the depths of the ninth circle of treachery. It seems like all is lost when Dante comes to the realization he is guilty and belongs in each of the circles of hell. And it is through that realization and remorse that he is redeemed. The game ends with Dante stepping out of hell and witnessing the blinding lights of the mountain of Purgatorio. The beautiful, hopeful ending of Dante's Inferno would not have been possible without the grueling journey before it. In the same way, the strangely uplifting feeling I experienced walking back to my car after seeing Terrifier 3 would not have been possible without the vivid depictions of evil and violence I had been through to get here. Uplifting, such a strange word to use describing a slasher horror, but it really was. Watching Sienna lose everything, have her hands crushed and hang right on the edge of defeat, only to be restored and empowered by angelic forces to prevail against Art and Vicky, was one of the most satisfying movie-going experiences I could remember. Art gets away in the end, and the poor little Gabby gets trapped in some sort of hellish realm, so this should feel like a loss, but it's really not. Sienna looks down at her mangled hands, and they are restored right before her very eyes. Divine forces are at work, guiding and shielding her. When she says her last words about finding Gabby, me as the audience believes it. Terrifier tells one of the most pure stories of good versus evil, angels versus demons. No tired attempts to blur these lines, or the common trope of making the angels actually the bad guys. It's refreshing to see this in modern storytelling. And this franchise is not given enough credit for its story and mythos. An inspiring story, but not toward violence, but rather towards hope and the triumph of good against evil. Of course, Sienna's strength and power seems to be tied to her father's sword, perhaps as Samson's power was tied to his hair. But in the end, he calls upon God's power to destroy the temple without his hair. Will we see a similar arc for Sienna? Only time will tell. The next part I want to touch on is the characters. I have never seen a horror movie have such a likable cast of characters. Seriously, every character in this movie is likable for one reason or another. Even the diabolical Art the Clown you still have to like for his silly and ridiculous antics. David Howard Thornton does so much in this role without saying a single word, or even making the slightest sound. His presence is insane on screen, so much to the point that I cannot imagine any other actor playing this role. David really did create Art, and I do not think he is replaceable. Sienna, played by Lauren Lavera, is the best horror movie antagonist I have seen. She goes through the ringer unlike any heroine, and you feel her fear and emotion in her performance. Seriously top-notch. When she flips that angel switch like in the second movie, she really comes off as an actual conduit for otherworldly power, capable of felling Art and Vicky at the same time. Again, the triumph of good versus evil. She evolves from a scared girl trying to fight back to an angelic soldier whenever she gets her hand on the sword. The only character I feel like I couldn't totally get behind was Vicky, and maybe that is just because I don't feel like Art does well with an accomplice. The little pale girl in the second movie was great, because she didn't do much except act like him and be creepy. Tons of mystery around that character. Vicky was good in an exorcist sort of way, and some of her exposition in the end was necessary to give us a better picture of what is actually going on. That being said, I hope we don't get too much explained. Horror is always done best with incomplete explanations and a healthy dose of mystery. As you all may have heard, I had some concerns going into this movie, from what I had heard in the Reddit spoiler section. Let me just tell you that none of them were really warranted. The instances of child death in this movie, I would argue, are actually more tasteful than Pennywise biting off Georgie's arm in It. I hated that scene, but in Terrifier, kids are not killed on screen and do not suffer. It was sad to see the scattered remains of the kid hacked up in the beginning scene, but did not come off as bad as the scene from It. Serious props to director Damien Leone for making what could have been a truly awful scene as palatable as possible. David Howard Thornton said in interviews he thought it was likely this movie would offend Christians, but I found this topic to be totally alright myself as a Christian. Demonic villains mocking God and the crucifixion is to be expected. That's what demons do. The fact is, Art and Vicky talk a big game, which is biblically accurate, but are consistently bested by Sienna being a vessel for divine power. I see nothing wrong with this, and it actually gets me pumped to see. I suppose my only real problem with the movie, the same with every Terrifier movie, the insane violence. It makes each movie a hard watch, and I suspect scares away many potential fans. I don't really give the Terrifier series much grief for this though, as the high-tuned violence is baked into the series' identity. I just wish on a personal level it was less gory, as all my favorite moments are not centered around the kills. It's the antics, story, and characters. This is absolutely one of my favorite horror movies. It really makes me happy to see an indie production do so well in theaters. I'm late to the party, but I am a Terrifier fan. Terrifier 3 I will give a high A tier. Following Terrifier 2, I may actually like 3 even more. Let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments, folks. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.